You lie awake with your hand curled under the pillow pretending rest. But your body knows better. It aches in the places grief has settled. And tonight, like many before, there are no answers waiting in the dark. You try not to move too much, as if stillness might invite sleep. But even your silence is noisy. Thoughts chase you down alleys you thought you'd boarded shut. And still nothing breaks the quiet. Only your breathing, only your bones remembering what you tried to forget. The past doesn't knock anymore. It just walks in. And tonight you are too tired to send it away. So you stay, wrapped in old questions, still waiting for a softer kind of night. You don't know why the hymn returns tonight, but it does clear and full like it was yesterday. Your grandmother's voice half whispered through the hum of a box fan. What a friend we have in Jesus. You remember her hands worn warm folding laundry as she sang. She never raised her voice, even in sorrow. She just sang. And somehow the house held more peace than pain. You didn't believe much back then, but you believed her. You remember her tea steeping longer than needed, the way she closed her Bible like it was alive. And now, in your hollowed-out heart, that same verse she underlined presses into you like breath. Come to me, all who are weary. And somehow she's here. And somehow so is he. You still remember the look. It wasn't anger, it was disappointment. The kind that asks nothing more of you. And that night, that single night, you turned away, and never turned back. You told yourself it wasn't that serious. Everyone says things. Everyone walks out sometimes. But your soul knew. You crossed something holy that night. You didn't yell. You just left the room. And love didn't follow. Now the moment replays more vividly than any photo. The way the door clicked. The stillness that followed. The words you didn't say. You don't even remember the argument. But you remember leaving someone alone. And tonight, that version of you still sits outside the door, ashamed, waiting to be let back in. You loved him. You really did. But you were tired, afraid, surrounded by people who didn't understand what he meant to you. So you stayed quiet, changed the subject, laughed at the wrong joke, and then the moment passed, and the silence stayed. Peter didn't plan to deny him either, but it happened, and the rooster always crows, not once, but in echoes, in the friend you didn't defend, in the call you didn't return, in the prayer you refused to believe anymore. You are not proud of the distance, but somehow it grew, and now you wonder, would he even turn to look for you? Could love survive the things you never said out loud? It comes out like breath, not a full sentence, not even a plea, just, Lord. It startles even you because you stopped praying months ago, or maybe years, and yet tonight something presses on your chest like a hand, not heavy, just insistent. So you exhale the only thing left, his name, not out of habit, but out of ache. You don't ask him to fix anything. You're too worn for requests. You just say the name, and that's all. Then silence again, but not empty. Not this time. Somehow the air feels different, like the edge of a page about to be turned. Maybe he heard. Maybe that's all prayer ever was. An ache with his name in it. You imagine olive trees swaying in tired wind, the scent of crushed leaves, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Jesus kneeling in the dark, not shining, not glowing, just weeping. You don't speak, you just watch. You notice his back rising and falling slower now. You see the sweat on his brow, the dust on his knees. He is fully God. But here, he is only heartbreak. For a moment, he lifts his head. He doesn't look past you. He looks at you, and in that gaze, he does not accuse. He invites. He knows what crushing feels like. And in this midnight garden, he does not fix your sorrow. He joins it. You tried to forget. You packed the memory in a drawer, wrote over it with busyness, said I've moved on. But the ache never obeyed. Because forgetting isn't healing. And silence doesn't mean peace. You thought if you could just stop remembering, you could stop hurting. But now you realize that ache was asking to be noticed, to be held, not erased. Some wounds aren't meant to close without a witness, and maybe God doesn't want you to forget. Maybe he just wants to sit with you while you remember, until the sharp edge dulls, until the shame runs out of breath, until the wound no longer tells the whole story. You don't hear footsteps, but the room shifts. The kind of shift you feel in your bones, like something sacred just entered. You don't open your eyes, but you know he's here, sitting at the edge of your bed, not speaking, not judging, just being, like he's done it before, like he never left. You feel your hands unclench without trying. You feel your breath go deeper. You still carry the guilt, but it no longer crushes, because he's holding space for you. And tonight, that's the miracle. Not a changed past, but a present that includes him. No matter what you did, he still came. Silence used to feel like a sentence, like God was withholding words until you fixed everything. But tonight it wraps you instead. Not cold, not cruel, just quiet. Holy quiet. Like the pause between two people who understand without speaking. You're not afraid of it anymore. You're not filling it with noise. You're letting it hold you. Because maybe silence isn't distance. Maybe it's presence too sacred for sound. And in this hush, you feel less alone than in most conversations. He hasn't said a word, but your heart knows he is still here, not waiting for you to perform, just to rest. You didn't plan to sleep, but your breath has slowed. Your chest no longer clenches with each inhale, and you realize you're not trying to forget anymore. You're not even trying to forgive yourself. You're just being, and he is being with you. No answers, no revelation, just nearness, and that is enough. You're still broken, still unsure, but something holy happened tonight. You were not fixed. You were not abandoned. You were seen. And somehow, you feel lighter because he came. Not to erase the past, but to sit with you in it and whisper, I never left. It wasn't a dream that woke you. It was the oink, the kind that comes before your eyes even open. Not sharp, just familiar. like a name whispered across decades. You lie still, hoping maybe it'll pass, but it never does, because the truth has its own alarm clock. And tonight it rings early. You don't cry, you haven't in years, but your chest remembers how you've learned to smile through pain, to nod politely while carrying shame. But some memories don't want to stay buried. They stir, they breathe, and all you can do is listen. This is one of those nights when you can't keep pretending you've made peace with the past. You kept it for sentimental reasons. That's what you told others, but you haven't opened it in years. Tonight you do. The binding cracks softly like old bones. Inside her handwriting, faint, still graceful. One verse is circled 3 times. He is faithful and just to forgive. You blink hard, because she knew what you never admitted, that your guilt ran deeper than your faith. She believed for you even when you couldn't. She left breadcrumbs in scripture for nights like this. So you'd know the way back. You run your fingers over her underlines, not to study, just to feel close. To remember someone once believed in forgiveness, even for you. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No shouting, no slammed doors, just silence. A conversation you avoided. A truth you swallowed, because speaking it felt like opening a wound you couldn't control. So you said nothing. And in that nothing, something sacred broke. You wish you had just said, "I'm hurting," or even, "I don't know how to fix this." But pride or fear or both locked your throat. And now, all these years later, you still live in the pause of that unspoken sentence. You replay it like a scene without dialogue, and wonder if healing would have begun had you dared to speak. You didn't ask to be seen. You just wanted it to stop hurting, so you came quietly. Not to be chosen, just to be close, like that woman in the crowd afraid. Ashamed. Certain she didn't deserve attention, but desperate enough to reach. You feel like her tonight. You don't say your name. You don't even whisper the pain. You just stretch your soul toward the edge of something holy and wait for even the hem of his robe, because that would be enough to stop the bleeding, to stop the shame, even for someone like you. You've laughed, you've loved. But those moments pass like wind through trees. Regret, though. It builds a house inside you, furnishes it, moves in. You wonder why sorrow has such staying power, why joy feels like a visitor. But regret stays like family. You ask God, "Why did you let me carry this so long?" But maybe he didn't. Maybe you just never let it go. Maybe you didn't think you could, or should, because to release it would feel like denying your guilt. And guilt at least felt honest. But tonight, you wonder if even regret has an expiration date, and maybe mercy was always the rightful heir. You imagine the table, bread still warm, cups half full. The place still echoes with laughter and betrayal. And you. You're there, but sitting at the edge. Not because he asked you to, but because you couldn't bring yourself closer. You hear his voice, feel the tension in the room, the beauty, the heartbreak. You're not one of the 12, but you're still a disciple in the shadows, wondering if grace reaches this far, watching him break the bread, and wondering if there's a piece for you, and somehow he passes it in your direction without hesitation. Like he knew you'd be watching, you rehearse the words. Even now, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you, but they stay in your mouth, heavy like stones. There's no one left to say them to. Or maybe there is, but too much time has built too many walls. You write them in your mind anyway. A letter never sent. A voice message never recorded. A prayer barely formed. You wonder if confession still counts when no one hears it but God. And in that wondering, you feel something shift. Because maybe forgiveness doesn't need an audience, just honesty. And heaven listens more closely than we think. It isn't loud, just clear, soft, like someone saying your name from the other side of the door. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't accuse. He just says your name. And suddenly, it doesn't sound dirty. It sounds familiar, like someone who knows your whole story and still wants to say it out loud. You've gone years avoiding the sound of it because it reminded you of what you weren't. But now, his voice carries no shame, only tenderness, like a friend, like someone who waited a long time to say it again. And finally, you let it wash over you, like a baptism of the soul. You still remember everything, the sting, the silence that followed. But now it feels wrapped, cleaned, not healed, not yet, but tended to. And that's something. It doesn't pulse with heat tonight. It just sits quietly, acknowledged, witnessed. Jesus never promised to erase scars, but he does promise to touch them, to press his hand over yours while you name them one by one. And tonight, that's what it feels like. His hand, steady warm, sitting over the oldest wound. Not afraid of it, not rushing it. Just there, like he always meant to be. You're still not sure what changed, but something did. Not in the world, in you. You've spent years blaming yourself for things you couldn't undo, carrying names you were never meant to wear, but tonight they fall off quietly, one by one. You're still broken, still tired, still healing. But for the first time in a long time, you don't hate the person in the mirror, because you saw him see you. And he didn't flinch. He didn't correct. He just stayed. And somehow, that was enough to call your soul back home. You usually turn it off quickly, as if darkness could help you forget faster. But not tonight. Tonight, the soft glow feels like permission to linger, to breathe. The room is still. The shadows aren't frightening. They feel like company. You fold your hands together not to pray, just to hold something. There's no urgency, no script, just presence, and peace you don't need to earn. This isn't about answers or closure. It's just about not being chased anymore. You're not trying to rewrite the story. You're letting it rest. The past is still there, but it's not the loudest voice tonight. And maybe that's enough. You almost gave it away last spring, but something made you keep it. Now, your hands find it in the back of the drawer. Soft worn, still smelling like that long-ago summer. It doesn't hurt to touch anymore. It just reminds you of who you were, who you tried to be. You fold it gently, not out of sadness, but reverence, for the version of you who didn't give up, who kept walking even with guilt as a shadow. You place the shirt back, but the heaviness doesn't follow. It stays in the drawer, where it belongs. You return to the present, lighter, like someone who finally stopped punishing themselves. You used to say, I was someone. I used to believe I once mattered. But tonight, you catch yourself whispering, I am. It's small, barely a change, but it feels like resurrection. You're still breathing, still here, still held. You may not know what tomorrow brings, but you're not erased, not a ghost, not just a memory to others. You are still written into God's story, and somehow that includes this moment, the quiet, the almost sleep, the heartbeat that didn't stop. You are not past tense, not forgotten, not done, and your soul knows it now. You didn't follow the crowd, not this time. You stayed, long after the noise faded. You didn't need a miracle. You just wanted to stay near him, like the blind man who could finally see but didn't rush off to prove it. He lingered, because love doesn't need performance, and presence doesn't ask for proof. That's how you feel tonight. You're not trying to show anyone you're healing. You're not even sure it's happened. But something inside sees differently. You feel his nearness like breath, and you want nothing more than to remain. No spotlight, no testimony, just this quiet miracle of not needing to leave. There's a peace in not asking, in simply sitting. No demands, no desperation, just a soul willing to be still. You've begged before, you've pleaded in the dark, you've screamed into pillows and whispered into your hands. But tonight you say nothing, not because you've given up, but because you've given in to the comfort of just being. You don't need the pain explained, you don't need the timeline of redemption. You just need him near. And he is, closer than breath. Not to fix, not to lecture, just to remain. And somehow that kind of silence feels louder than any answer ever could. No crowds now, no shouting, just stillness under stars. You imagine standing there long after the crowds have left. The wood no longer dripping, the sky no longer weeping, just the aftermath, and him, still suspended in your memory, still saying it is finished. You're not afraid to look now. You don't flinch, because something inside believes it was enough, not just for the world, but for you, for this very night. For every sin you still grieve in silence. The cross remains even when your faith wavers. And tonight, you see it not as a symbol of sorrow, but as a promise that even your darkest moments are not beyond its reach. You used to dread the mornings, not because of what they brought, but because of what they didn't. No booming voice from heaven, no divine direction, just the same old room, the same aches, the same quiet. But now, you've made peace with that quiet. It doesn't scare you anymore, because now you know he's in it. You know silence doesn't mean absence, it means trust. It means presence without pressure. And you're learning slowly that stillness is sacred. You'll wake tomorrow not with fear, but with the quiet confidence that God still inhabits the hush, and you'll walk in it. One breath at a time. You feel it, a hand, not imagined, not metaphor, real, like someone brushing your hair back from your forehead, like a father checking if you're sleeping yet. It breaks you, not from pain, but from kindness you didn't know you needed. You've begged for grand signs before, but tonight this small gesture undoes you. He doesn't say a word, doesn't need to, because love, when it's real, doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. You close your eyes, not to hide, but to receive, and you feel deeply that this is what grace looks like. Not thunder, but tenderness. Not rescue, but presence. The questions still exist, but they no longer control you. You don't need to trace every sorrow back to its source. You don't need to label the lesson. You don't even need closure. You just need rest. And you finally find it. Not because everything makes sense, but because someone greater is holding what you don't. You turn over slowly, your body releasing what your heart once gripped too tightly. It's not resignation, it's surrender. You feel the blankets differently tonight, not as shields, but as coverings. Like mercy. You are not healed. Not in the way you imagined, but you are safe. And for the first time, that is enough. The light touches your cheek, gentle, unrushed. Before your eyes even open, you sense it. He never left, not during your tossing, not through your dreams, not even in the hours you forgot he was there. He stayed. You wake slowly. No rush to perform, no pressure to prove, only breath and presence. The room feels holy, not because anything changed, but because he's still here, like he promised, like he always meant to be. You rise quietly. You carry the same body, the same history, but not the same weight, because mercy didn't leave, and neither did he. Pray for when guilt still won't let go. God, I still carry what I wish I didn't. I've said I forgive, but I keep punishing myself. If you're really still here, I'm tired enough to let you hold it now. Please, just stay. Amen. You can rest now. You've done the hard part. You stayed through the quiet. You faced what most avoid, and still you are here. So breathe slowly. Let your shoulders soften. You don't have to solve anything tonight. This moment wasn't about fixing the past. It was about laying it down even for a while. You've carried silence like a weight, but now it can become a blanket. One that covers you not in shame, but in mercy. He saw every ache you couldn't name, every memory you folded into your chest and hid. And still, he stayed. He did not flinch at your regrets. He did not walk away when the guilt rose. He came closer, not to erase you, but to remember you gently. So let yourself be remembered tonight. Even if sleep comes slowly, let peace come first. Let it wrap around you like light finding its way through a cracked door. You are not forgotten. You are not unworthy. You are not alone. You are held completely. And in this sacred hush, you are safe. If this moment met you where you needed, if something softened even slightly, I'm grateful you stayed. This space was made for that, not for answers, but for presence. If you'd like this kind of stillness to find you again on the nights you can't pray, feel free to subscribe so his voice stays within reach when yours is tired. if someone you love has been carrying quiet shame or holding on to memories alone, share this with them. It might become the doorway to their own peace. And if you feel safe to do so, I would be honored to hear your story in the comments. What is one moment from your past that still visits you in the silence? And what did it feel like to finally sit with it without turning away? Good night.